Welcome again. We'll be covering some of the major topics that are very important for your upcoming mains examination. Now this class has been devised specifically keeping in mind the queries of numerous students who have come up with a single point that there is so much to read around, we are totally confused what to read for the last minute. So here we have tried to cover important topics for GS 1 to 4, the major points that we have been covering up, and these are some of the important topics that you should cover definitely. So sometimes this happens that when you are preparing, you skip out some of the major topics and that's what pops up into the exam. So to remove that, we are trying to have a brief idea about the major topics that have been covered throughout the year. Mainly we will be doing the contemporary topics, some other conventional topics. So we have classified this class under 4 headings. So GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. We will be covering topics for each of those, and we have also covered some of the major questions related to these in the GS test series. So you can just go on to the questions and start solving those. So you will have a brief idea of what all are the important happenings and the topics going around. Now the first coverage would be for the paper 1. Now paper 1 covers the history, geography and art and culture. When it comes to the culture, you have the intangible and the tangible heritage of UNESCO that are very important. Some of the literatures and the paintings, so usually you have 1 or 2 questions from those. However, as per the recent trends, there are more questions that are focusing on the music and the dance section. So both the visual art and the performing art are important. However, UNESCO's list are very important. Under the cultural schemes, we have already covered those under 3 lectures, the major cultural schemes and the cultural institutions in India. NCF, the National Culture Fund, is very important. Then you have the under history, you have the Indian Council Act 1909. Since it was the 75th anniversary for the Quit India movement 1942 becomes very important. All the leaders who were involved in Quit India movement, their biography, their details also becomes very important. So Quit India movement, by any way you should not leave that. Then there were cases of regional uprising, and the recent ones have been seen in Odisha. So this again becomes a very important topic for your mains. Similarly, you have the Calcutta Convention of 1890, that is very important. Vietnam crisis, again in news recently this time. Now you have the vagaries of monsoon. This is an important topic because till last year there were drought conditions that were seen. This year there are flood conditions that are seen. So in India basically you have the extremities of monsoon that has been witnessed over the past few years. Recently the CSE released the report on the droughts of India, and as soon as the report was out, you have the flood situations in India. So you have both the floods and the droughts that are important. As a result, this topic again becomes important for your paper 3, where you have the National Disaster Management Authority, the NDMA guidelines for urban flooding. That is again very important for this time. So vagaries of monsoon prediction systems in India. We'll be covering few classes on monsoon prediction in upcoming lectures, so you can refer those. So monsoon prediction again becomes very important, the circulation of monsoon. The next is the Evergreen revolution, again a very important topic. The government focus is now shifting from green revolution to Evergreen revolution. Now green revolution talked about HIV seeds, then you had the fertilizers and the pesticides. However, now we are talking about a evergreen revolution, which is a kind of consolidated approach, and it focuses more on organic farming. So there has been a shift in approach, and moving from green revolution to evergreen revolution is again very important question that could come up. The India's nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement, again very important. Questions on carbon credit, carbon sequestration, carbon sink, again very important. Do not miss out those. We have already covered the concept of carbon trading, the carbon credit in one of the lectures, so you can refer that. Again some important points are Bharat Stage 4, the zero carbon Britain and the Greenex. So zero carbon Britain, which talks about that Britain aims to achieve zero carbon emission. So that is an initiative that other countries are trying to adopt, and we are trying to move towards more of renewable sources of energy. So that's again the renewable sources of energy and the focus towards those. Similarly, in paper 3, you would have the Cartagena protocol, the Kyoto protocol, the Nagoya protocol that becomes important. We have covered all these protocols under the classes on environment, so you can refer those. Now paper 2. Paper 2 is again very important this time, because some of the recent happenings that have come up, the presidential election, the vice president election. Now have a note on all the details of how a presidential election takes place, who are the parties to it, how it actually works around. So everything from end to end should be clear, because there could be anything that could come up on these topics. Again, you had the Rajya Sabha election this time, Rajya Sabha election, then the election of president election witnessed the cross voting. Now cross voting is again very important, because you had people from other parties voting into other parties or voting to Ramnath Kovind. So because of cross voting, he ultimately won the election. So cross voting becomes very important. Ballot voting system, the VPPAT system, that's the voter verified paper audit trail, which has a paper trail for the electronic machines. The VMS system, so everything related to voting, election commission. The Rajya Sabha elections which recently took place in Gujarat again becomes important. Then you had the OBC commission, which was given the constitutional status, which is again very important for this time. Some of the global or the IR related topics, which include the Malabar exercise, the string of pearls, that's the China's invasion onto the Navy area, the Doklam Pass in Bhutan, the Chicken Corridor in the Sikkim, the relations of Indo-China, not only in the regions of Bhutan, but China tried to trespass the regions of Uttarakhand in the Mana Pass, so that again becomes important, the Chamoli district in Uttarakhand. So Indo-China relations are very important. Indo-Israel relations after the recent visit of Prime Minister to Israel, so that has come into news, and it's again very important. The role of International Court of Justice and all the related treaties to it. Then you have Pak occupied Kashmir, you have the areas of Kuljit and the related areas that have become important. Some other topics under the international relations come up with the Vienna Convention Article 36, that's important. Now talking about some of the major policies and the governance system. So you have the Muslim Law Board, the Triple Talaq that was recently in news, the India's aviation policy, the right for 020 rule. You have the freedom of airs, very important, because we talk about the 6th freedom of air, and you have 1 to 9 freedom of air. Definitely that's important, and we plan to cover that in one of the lectures. The UPI USSD and AEPS system, that's the Aadhaar enabled payment system, the unified payment interface that has become very important with the Digital India mission. So Digital India again very important, specifically in the rural areas. You have Skill India with the Kaushal Vikas Kendra, the Prime Minister's initiative, again very important topic. OROP, however that was for the last year, but keeping in trend for the prelims that came up this time, you had the last 2 years current affairs that could be part of it. So one rank one pension is again very important for this time. And you had the Sankalp scheme. Now Sankalp scheme is basically the idea for the pensioners. So what India has is 50 lakh government employees and nearly 53 lakh retired employees. So all those retired employees can contribute in one way or the other and can have economic benefits out by involving in the Sankalp scheme. So it's a scheme for the kind of social welfare activities or the social activities, whatever field they are associated with, be it health, education and so on and so forth, they could contribute towards it. So the Department of Pension looks after it. So you have the Sankalp scheme, that's very important. Then you have GS paper 3, economics, environment and disaster management as the key topics here. So under economics, the most important part is GST, goods and service tax, one nation, one market, one tax. So that's again a very important thing that we need to work around. Demonetization, moving from a less cash to a cashless economy, could be a kind of direct question that we started demonetization with the process of less cash, and now we are turning into a digital economy with the AEPS system, the Aadhaar enabled payment system, the BMAP and so on, and we are moving towards a cashless society. Some of the rural areas in India and some of the villages are now cashless. So these are some of the case studies that you can jot down under this. Very, very important. Then comes cyber security. We have already covered 2-3 lectures on this. So cyber security, the ransomware that was recently in news. Then you have the various malwares and the issues of cyber security gaining importance, because since on one side we are talking about digital India and on the other side we are concerned about the security issues. So if you have all the database and everything in the digital format, definitely cyber security is a very, very important concern. Again, antibiotics resistance was recently in news under the science and development section. If we talk about the resistance of antibiotic has come up as a major issue. Till now doctors used to liberally prescribe antibiotics, however the trend is now changing, and there are being cases reported where you have antibiotic resistant strains coming up. So the use of antibiotics is now decreasing in Indian healthcare system. The next is NDMA guidelines for urban flooding, which we have already talked about. The IRP intellectual property right policy released in 2016. Now prototype fast breeder reactors are under process in the advanced state in the Kalapakkam. So that's again very, very important. How does fast breeder reactors work? The current affairs update has covered everything on this, so just go through that for details. The next important topic is smart border management. Now this is again to do with Make in India vision and a kind of technology enabled border management system, where we are trying to include smart fencing across the borders of India. The next was the ban of crackers because of the harmful chemicals found in it. Similarly, you have the additives and the food adulterations that are in news. So recently you had the issues of bread that has come up, and the Maggi issue that had come up with Nestle. So all those, the chemical ban, the additives ban, the adulteration are very, very important. The idea of releasing a transatlantic cable is again in news. Mental Health Care Bill 2017, National Healthcare Policy 2017, both of these are important. Then you have Generation C, which talks about generation connected. So this is a phrase given under Digital India, which was part of the Kurukshetra August edition, with the term or the phrase Generation C. So sometimes there could be a direct question on what is Generation C, or what do you mean by Generation C, or something like that. So this is again very important. Now two of the things which were part of the key speech or the abstract of PM's Independence Day speech. So that was the idea of competitive cooperative federalism. So moving from cooperative federalism to competitive cooperative federalism under GST, for example, where you have a kind of one nation, one market, but all the states would be cooperating with one another in terms of the tax collection. On the other hand, they would be competing to provide the best of the services. So you have the competitive cooperative federalism idea that would come up. The next is data mining, again very, very important, again from PM Modi's speech for Independence Day speech. The CSISPR, the Cas9 gene editing, again very important. The issues of vector-borne diseases and the management. So recently in Gujarat you have the drone surveillance for the vector-borne diseases that has come up. So India is home to numerous vector-borne diseases like malaria, chikungunya, dengue. So those have come up into more limelight after the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and is important. Mission Indradhanush for vaccination, again very important. Now GS paper 4, most of the topics, since you have half of the paper based on case studies and other half on the conventional topic. For the conventional topics you have quarterly policy, that's important. The difference between the ethics and the morality, that's very, very important. We'll be covering that shortly in the next lectures. Now for the case studies, some of the important topics and ethical issues that you must read or you must be familiar with are like there could be a case study on anonymous emails being dropped to IT department for the lack of for the black money evasion that took place. We have framed a case study for the same, and that's available in the test series, so you can go through that and try to solve it. Then you have the issue of Gorakhpur case. the oxygen supply issue, the ethical issues involved in it, the role of administrators. Then you have similar issue, recently you had the Utkal derailment, so whether the minister was responsible or not. So all these are kind of ethical case studies that could be formed up. Doklam issue, who is at the fault, again the similar issues. Then you have the various Dalit stories coming up from parts of Rajasthan and UP mainly, again into news. The UP slaughterhouses was again in news. Similarly, you have Jallikattu, that was the ban of the bullfighting protest, that was in news. Farooq Dar, who was used as a human shield in Kashmir to protect by the soldiers of India. So that was again very important, and it's again a kind of very ethical issue whether this should be done or not. As a person, as an army soldier, whether this is ethical on his behalf or not. The next was the Election Commission's statement, which commented winning at all cost. Now this was a part of the Rajya Sabha's election in Gujarat. Similarly, you have the VPPAT issues. So why these issues are bad for the reputation of Election Commission? Questions like these could be part of these. So these are some of the basic ideas that we have come up with, and some of the major topics that are important for your upcoming examinations, the mains examinations. So you should definitely cover these topics. Read more of editorials specifically on the topics which we have talked about in the ethics. Try to solve more and more case studies, and try to have a kind of your own understanding and analytical outlook for these questions. We'll be covering more lectures on ethics and furthermore on GS in the upcoming lectures. So stay tuned. Have a good day ahead.